Hello everyone. I hope everyone out there is doing great today. Today I thought I would come to you with just a fun little lesson about Egypt. So today we're going to talk about how the Egyptians felt about the dead and like their connection with the dead and how it influenced their lives. This is something that I'm fascinated with in every culture. Afterlife myth, like ghosts and like communication with the dead, offerings and things like that. It's like my absolute favorite because, I have a lot of problems. So it's fascinating. That's why. So we'll say relationship with the dead. So they believe there's a positive and a negative influence. So first we're going to talk about the positive influence. The dead believed that family members, especially like spouses who have passed away, had like magical powers after they died to be able to help you like solve problems in your life. So evidence of this is called letters to the dead. And these are letters that they have actually found. There's at least 20 of them. And they are actual letters that people in ancient Egypt wrote from about 31 to 1200. So that's like the range of age where the range of the letters, like the age they were written. They believe that mostly people, it was like common, kind of how it is today, just like an oral practice, like you would talk to the dead. I think a lot of people still do that. So these letters were placed in the tombs at the time probably of like the funeral or after the death, when family members are coming to mourn. Also, tombs where multiple people were buried would be like reopened, and they think that that was like a chance for people to leave like more letters when someone else passed away. There were actually like pottery dishes with letters and inscriptions on the inside. So that when the spirit would, like, they believe there was like food offering or something in there, so that when the spirit would eat the food or take the offering, they would be able to read the inscription on the inside afterward. One of the letters is for a dead man named Neferseki, and they discovered that it was from his sister. They also think that it could be like a term of affection that maybe his wife used. So it's just like a woman that's your family, that you're like close to. So, if only we could speak to an ancient Egyptian and ask them. So this is kind of sad, but in this letter, this woman is saying that the trustee of the land of this person is holding back his daughter's share of her inheritance. So it's saying that the trustee has his land and his property and won't allow his daughter to take her portion of it, and she's asking him for intervention. So hoping that he will be able to do something from the afterlife with his powers to be able to change the situation. So, gosh, I really hope he did. And then she got her share of her father's land. This guy. So this is actually like a common subject of letter, where it's family members. It's usually like legal things like inheritance, and they're asking for intervention, and that's like a lot of the letters that they find have kind of like that similar subject matter, which I think is really funny. Kind of. So another letter they found is like on a piece of linen, and they think it was maybe wrapped around like an offering. And this is a letter about a widow, so it's to her husband and her son, who are very upset because there are like relatives coming to take their things. So there are family members after he was deceased that came and took their pottery and their servants and slaves, and she had brought it up in like the court and lost. And so she had written this like letter on this linen asking her husband to appeal to, I guess, like a higher court maybe, to help like fix the situation. And she like reminded him in the letter that he had called these relatives like thieving relatives and stuff. So and she also said she would rather, they can't distinguish exactly who she was talking about, but either her or her son, she would rather that they be dead than deal with like these relatives like thieving all their things. So I hope everything there turned out okay. Another reason that people would appeal to deceased relatives is because of infertility. So it's mostly like legal problems. Legal problems and infertility, those were like the two main reasons that they found that people would like appeal to their past loved ones, because they believed that somehow, especially with infertility, kind of makes sense that they could intervene on the other side. Having a child was extremely important for women of this time because of their status, like in their community. They like needed to have children. They needed someone just like kind of we do today to like carry on with their property and their things and take care of them when they're old. And it's also like in Egypt, they had this concept that like having children made like your being whole. So this was very important for people at this time. There was no like practical cure. Which obviously makes sense. People have trouble with that today. So for instance, there's like a piece of pottery in a museum today that has a message on it that says like, please like gift me with a healthy boy because you're like an excellent spirit. So a lot of these messages come in the form of fertility figurines. And they think these were pretty specifically used for a daughter asking her deceased father for a child. Should probably put deceased. You know, a lot of this has to do with the Egyptians, like these letters that they were writing. They believed that the written word was profound and magic, very powerful. So written inscriptions, written words were very, very powerful. One other thing that people would write these letters for is illness. There's a bowl called the Cairo bowl. It's called Cairo bowl. That has an inscription on it about this woman. It's to her dead husband, and their servant is ill. So she's like appealing to him to help save the servant. So now we're going to dive in to the negative influence. So the Egyptians believed that unsettled souls or dead people could haunt the living and cause them all kinds of distress in different ways. Like today, these are believed to be people who were killed violently, or died too young, or in a distressful way. Many people in Egypt considered part of this like distress to be like if you died without achieving what you wanted to in life. And a lot of the time that was not having children. We're going to put children, because that was a really, really big deal to these people here. Many people in ancient Egypt believed that if a family member got a sudden illness or a sudden loss of crop, that could be a spirit that's upset and kind of lashing out. So this is still practiced today, like the worship of ancestors. This actually in cultures all around the world, but the one I actually know about and that I've studied is like Japanese culture. They have a lot of ancestral worship. They leave offerings. China does that too. I know there's a lot more out there, so I'm sorry if I didn't mention another one. But, you know, they leave incense and offerings, and this appeases spirits. And you try, even here in the US, people like ghost hunters and stuff say you shouldn't like offend the spirits because they're going to follow you around. Bad things are going to happen in your life. It's like exactly the same thing. So you make offerings to appease the spirit, and respect from ancestors. So, all the way up the line, descendants is a better word for people who come after. So there's one story that's preserved from ancient Egypt, and it's that there was like this priest who was sent to appease a spirit. This spirit was haunting a town, and he went there and communicated with the ghost and asked it what was wrong, and it said that its tomb had fallen into disrepair, and it was really upset about that. So he promised to, in the story, rebuild the tomb and create like a ceremony with like offerings for him to kind of settle his spirit. So I hope that he actually did that. This next thing is hilarious. So while spirits of fathers and brothers and like men were thought to be like helpful, spirits of women were thought to be troublemakers. So there's a letter that was found from a husband to his deceased wife. And it states that he misses her, that she died several years before, and that he has been a faithful husband and has not been with anyone else. And so he does not appreciate that she keeps haunting him. And unfortunately, it doesn't give any details as to like the manner of haunting, like what she was doing. But it's very clear that he believes that she's haunting him and threatens her with some kind of like afterlife tribunal. I think that's so funny. Ladies. They've also found another similar letter from a scribe to his deceased wife. So apparently this was like a common, like, ladies be coming back to haunt their husbands. If I died, I would so come back and haunt my husband. He doesn't believe in ghosts, so I would make him. Many woman ghosts were said to have a bad influence on like new mothers and pregnant women. Or women who were trying to have children. Especially if the deceased spirit was unsuccessful in having children themselves, that they state that that makes like the haunting worse. I mean, that makes total sense, and that would be like a thing now. You know, people who believe in ghosts. Like, I'm not like ghosts exist, and I'm not like ghosts don't exist. I just have no idea, but it's very fascinating to me. There's a word called mut, and this refers and is actually kind of translates to dangerous spirit. And this tends to be referring to spirits who have been like executed, traitors who were executed, prisoners of war who've been executed. They consider moot, I believe. I don't think it would be pronounced mutt. I'm not sure though. These spirits could not pass into the land of the dead. So they were forced to stay among the living and torment the living. Egyptians would protect themselves against bad and scary spirits and ghosts, especially in dreams. So they had to protect themselves at night because spirits could influence your dreams. They had spells that they would say. And they also wore like special headdresses at night to protect them from spirits entering their dreams. So, in medicine, in ancient Egyptian medicine, ghosts and like spirits were given quite a lot of credit for a lot of like sicknesses and illnesses that people could get. There were rituals to exorcise spirits from like people's limbs, spells to counter like a ghost's like sickness hold like on someone, like putting a sickness on them. This could be caused by like moot, like bad spirits, but it could also just be caused by like a roused regular common spirit that's being like aggravated. So kind of just like people, so kind of like we believe today, like people kind of existed in the afterlife how they did in life. I think all this is really interesting. If I could find more about like Egyptian ghosts, I would definitely do another lesson in that. This information, especially when it comes to like ancient Egypt, is not very easy to find. There's a lot of information in cultures, even ancient civilizations who existed, especially like Asian cultures. There's a lot to do. I'm thinking of Japan, obviously, with like ghosts, and I'd love to do a lesson about that. I actually took like a Japanese culture class when I was in college, several, and one of them I did a presentation on ghosts, and I think they were supposed to be like 20 minutes or something, and I was the last one to present, and my 20 minutes was up so far long ago, but everyone voted to have me keep going because it was about ghosts. It was like so interesting, and there were so many like weird stories and stuff that my presentation ended up being like 45 minutes and no one cared. Everyone like stayed to listen, so that was actually pretty cool. I got a pretty good grade on that too. Yeah, I wasn't even really close to stopping when my time was up, but I hope you enjoyed this small, interesting lesson, and I'll see you for the next one.